September 4th, 1979. Gingerbread Preschool in the rural village of Brentwood Bay off the coast of Western Canada. Two nondescript, quiet, polite boys named Aaron Close and Wayne Hopwood are dropped off for their first day of preschool. Their teachers didn't think much of them then, but who could have guessed that the fateful convergence of these two 4-year-olds would ultimately erupt into a rock and roll phenomenon. That phenomenon is Dirty Horse. This is their untold story. Tonight on Untold Story, their music has been described by one writer as an eclectic mix of classic rock, modern harmonies, and heavy metal sensibilities. But where did Dirty Horse come from? How did they achieve the critical recognition they enjoy today? And where is this visionary group taking us? This is Dirty Horse like you've never seen them before. And tonight's show features exclusive looks from their new forthcoming video, Take Me to the Cabin. Stay tuned, you won't want to miss it. Aaron Close, Brian Pinn, and Wayne Hopwood were raised in similar middle-class homes in rural central Saanich, British Columbia, a province on Canada's west coast. Close and Hopwood met in preschool and kept in touch throughout their grade school years. They shared a mutual adoration for the Beatles and would spend hours listening to and analyzing the entire collection of Beatles albums. Hopwood met Brian Pinn through the church that their mothers forced them both to attend as children. Pinn and Close met later at Mount Newton Middle School. In high school and the years beyond, the three friends became enamored with Nirvana and, inspired by the grunge spirit running rampant in the early 1990s, decided to form a band. Their lack of musical talent and inability to play their newly purchased instruments wouldn't stop them. They called themselves the Scottish Bastards, Close and Hopwood on guitars, Pinn on his bass. The trio began practicing together, writing rudimentary song fragments and mimicking Nirvana songs. Their rock star ways began to show even at this early stage of their careers. An infamous New Year's Eve story saw the trio tear up The Loft, a popular bar in small-town Courtenay, British Columbia, most famous for hosting incumbent celebrity Pamela Anderson. Women were enthralled to have an actual rock band in their midst, and the guys were forced to fend off countless advances from a rapidly developing female fan base. This trip was the seed that would later become the juggernaut known as Cabin Fest. Hopwood purchased a 4-track around this time, and he and Close immersed themselves in recording at Carolwood Studios. It was during this period that they produced their first published works, which would later be released as the 70s outro cassette single. Though the group has evolved substantially since then, Shaft's style is still noticeable in Dirty Horse's later hits, if sometimes overwhelmed by the band's heavier influences. Shaft exuded a 70s rock aura, punctuated by classics like Bastard at Hand and 70s Outro. The latter, written for a Vietnam War movie that was never released, saw Wildcat's emergence as a guitar soloist extraordinaire. Bastard at Hand marked Close's debut as a vocalist, showcasing his gruff, country-laced singing style that has made him one of the most recognizable voices in rock music today. Not much is known about the past of Andrew Phillips, or Phipps as he is affectionately known by his bandmates. Oh, there are stories of his raucous Winnipeg youth, drunken rages at teasers, muscle man competitions, multiple arrests for lurking outside Sergeant Sunday, rumors about his bodily fluids found at Bones Pizza. But what is known about Phillips is that he yearned for something greater than the 9-to-5 creative wasteland that was Winnipeg in the 1980s. He knew his calling was out west, and he was determined to heed that calling. When young Phipps first flew west, he didn't even know what an airplane was. "Look at the big car, Daddy," he said. But Daddy wasn't going to be there to tell him about how twin wind turbines compress and eject air, propelling the plane forward, creating a scientific force along the curved wings known as lift, causing a plane to be propelled skyward. It was through their jobs in the docks at Sears in Victoria that Close first met Phillips and a young Tony Planetta. As time went on, The Sears boys would meet with Hopwood and Pin at parties and other get-togethers, and when it was learned that Phillips could play drums, the Scottish Bastards rented their first drum kit and invited Phillips to audition for the band. Phillips' performance was masterful. He blew away the other three performers with his skilled drumming and violent style. The band found themselves coming together like never before. This new band took the moniker Shaft. The lineup consisted of Hank Aaron Close and Wayne Wildcat Hopwood on guitar, Brian Pinner Pin on bass, and Andrew Phipps Phillips on drums. It was this lineup that earned the band a cult following in the 1990s.